Coach, so much has changed in the world, but particular to sports. Your life has kind of been turned upside down in a lot of ways. Even going back to last March, you guys were on such a hot streak going into the conference tournament. Where are we now in terms of college hockey, what you're allowed to do, what you are doing, and maybe how you're doing it differently because of coronavirus?
Yeah, it's great to be here talking hockey again. I know that. It's such a hard question to answer, and I'll do the best I can. We're literally day to day right now.
Still.
There's so many changes, and what our preparation is now is what happens if? What happens if we get through quarantine? What happens if the NCAA decides hockey can start on a day in November or a day in December? What happens if the virus has a spread? So right now we're in quarantine. Our players everybody on campus at RPI is in a 2-week quarantine. We're about halfway through, and we're still doing Zoom meetings. We're still doing everything that we can remotely, but we're prepared that when we get through that, to start hitting the ice in small groups.
Yeah, I mean, hockey is a sport that is played in tight spaces. Good hockey is played in tight spaces. Even with rule changes that has allowed, players to kind of open up on the ice, it is still a sport that is played in close quarters. What can you do differently as a sport, as a coaching staff, to keep guys safe, obviously, but also still be effective in the way you practice?
Yeah, so the progression, the return to play protocol is something that we will follow very closely. So it begins with, how do they get to the rink? They won't, shower after the practice at the rink. They'll go home and keep their distance there. They'll wear masks all the way up till the time they're on the ice. There's actually been hockey helmets and face masks designed with the face covering now as well. So we will go through that normal progression. Once we succeed the distance practicing where there's no contact, then we go to the next level. And there's 4 stages to get to full competition for games.
Same way in society, we kind of went through 4 stages to get back to something of normalcy. And man, I can't wait until that happens in the world of college athletics. As painful as it might be, let me take you back to March, because as I said, you guys were on such a hot streak. You'd won 4 straight games, 7 of your last 8 conference games before you were about to open up that ECAC series, first against Harvard, and then we thought maybe Colgate, and then everything kind of shut down. RPI's been at the head of a lot of this, Coach, and even in terms of fall sports here, the school has been leading, especially the Capital Region charge, in terms of knowing when to take a pause, when to shut it down completely. You had the pulse on your team. How good were you guys last March, and how big were you rolling?
Yeah, one of the greatest indicators of the level of the momentum and the role that we had was the feedback that we got from our guys, a month later, 2 months later, and they felt invincible. They felt like we were headed to Lake Placid. Now, no one knows, but we've really tried to capitalize on that momentum, not only in recruiting, but just with our guys and coming out of this pandemic better than we were. But in March, we were playing great. I mean, at this time of the year now, I'm looking back at the video and comparing it to NHL video so that we can start our season again. And our numbers were very good. Owen Savory was playing great in net. We weren't giving up many goals. We were scoring by committee, and the guys felt really, really confident.
All right, I want to come back to one thing there. You mentioned you're looking at film and comparing it to some things you're seeing in the NHL, but you had 8 seniors.
Yeah.
You've got an incoming class coming, which we'll talk about here, but can you recapture some of what you had last year, or is every single season different?
A bit of both. A bit of both. So I always state that every year is a new year. It's a new team, new leaders, new followers, new players. But we absolutely, 4 years ago, when I started here, you hear things from the players is that we want to expect to win. We want to go into games and not wonder. That's something that can carry over. So our freshmen have only experienced a winning season. Our sophomores have been 50-50, right? So that momentum, absolutely, that mindset and expectation and the work ethic and what it takes to be a team, that's what we will try to recapture, but it is starting over.
When you say you're watching film of a Division I college team and comparing it to the NHL, what do you mean?
Well, our first segment of practice is going to be skill development. So how does a guy attack a player one-on-one? How does a goaltender, play the wraparound? The technical things that the NHL players and our players are so similar at when you really break it down. If you have Nathan MacKinnon's speed, what are you doing with that relative to the fastest guy in our team, to the fastest guy in the league in the NHL? So we start with the individual skills, and then we look at situations. So we look at power play, we look at penalty kill, we look at face-offs. And at the same time when we're breaking the game down, we're pulling out systems and strategy things, but we're putting them on the shelf. And we've spent all summer, and this is a unique time. Typically we would spend May and June after the college season breaking down the NHL playoffs. We're breaking down the NHL playoffs right now.
Yeah.
And that's exciting for our guys to be able to watch those videos.
I would imagine the percentage of players you recruit, the guys who don't have NHL aspirations, the percentage is probably very small. Your techniques in terms of how you practice, the skills you want to develop, being so similar to guys who are in the NHL now, is that a recruiting edge? Do you believe that, hey, look, come to RPI, we're practicing what would make you a successful NHL player?
Yeah, every single one of our guys wants to play in the NHL. Some have a higher probability, but all of them can play pro hockey. They're all good enough. And we believe at RPI, our best bet to win championships with RPI hinges on development. So we need to make our players better. And that is part of the recruiting pitch. And what we do is, we are a player-focused staff. Coach Weber, Coach Mosier, and myself, we take feedback from the players. We build on their strengths. And absolutely, I will put our development model for each individual and our team against anybody in the country.
How many of those recruiting pitches were made over Zoom or WebEx or any other kind of video call?
Yeah, so late in March, the NCAA declared a dead period that is now continuing until the end of September, maybe longer. So we call them virtual recruiting experiences. And we did campus visits. We did, just sharing videos. We sent out, I believe, over 350 emails of information and connection, trying things.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge. I mean, just last week I did 3 recruiting experiences, all on WebEx and Zoom. Yeah, it's a different time. And, we asked their families to come in, but it's also opened up some new doors. We were recruiting a European, and the young man was playing in Canada, has come to Canada. So we had him in Canada, his family in Europe, and me in Troy. And that's new, but that's great.
Yeah. Technology is sometimes a blessing and a curse, is it not? I hear coaches all the time tell their players, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Is that something you and your staff have had to embrace over the last 5 or 6 months?
Well, it's actually, we say exactly opposite of that.
Okay.
We want our players to be comfortable, right? We believe you can be your best when you are comfortable. You are confident, you're more aware when you're comfortable, you're not focused on any negative. But I think what you're referring to is uncertainty. And we have really stressed to our guys, be comfortable with uncertainty. right? So the uncertainty comes in, what does tomorrow bring? When can I move to campus? When can we start practicing as a team? When am I going to meet the freshmen are going to meet their mentor, who we assign them mentors? When can we experience the team building that the guys crave so bad? Our young guys are, 18 to 24 years old. The uncertainty is hard. So the life experience is being comfortable in uncertain times. It's hard.
You've got 10 new guys, Coach. One of them is a grad transfer, but for the 9 who are new to college hockey, how challenging is this time for them? You just talked about the eagerness a lot of your guys have to meet the new players on this team.
Yeah, it's, right now they're in quarantine. They're in the dorms. They can't experience their teammates, but they're in a new city, and that safety net of a new team is very different.
Yep.
So they are utilizing, all of the technology they can to interact and have conversations, not only with a new campus, but with a new team. The guys that come in, they had some major decisions to make in terms of, we have some guys that aged out of junior. They had to come in. But we have a number of players that had to make the decision, is it better to begin their college experience in quarantine, or is it better to go back to junior and that uncertainty? All 9 of our freshmen made the decision to come. They really felt they were ready. It also coincides with the plan that we have for them, meaning if they bump back a year, it changes the dynamics and the long-term projections that we have. So there's been a lot thrust on these new guys.
What is it about this group that excites you?
It's just the next step. It's the depth in the group. I believe their IQ, their skating, their skill. I think we have some real good size. But it's just another step. We won't win with the freshmen alone, but we can't win without them. And they bring energy, they bring enthusiasm, they bring an opportunity to follow the new leaders. And this group has been exceptionally responsible and in tune with all of our efforts for team building thus far.
How do they fit with the guys you've got coming back? Had a small junior class, Coach, so only 3 seniors going into this season. How do the new guys fit with what you've already got?
Well, first and foremost, Shane Seller comes in as a grad transfer. And he's been through 4 years at Dartmouth. He's an exceptional hockey player and an exceptional human being that immediately joined our leadership group. And so that gives us another guy that will run the locker room, that will run all of the social gatherings, that he's been around the block, and wisdom and experience is very valuable. The incoming guys haven't probably found their niche socially yet, but we've added some real pieces to the puzzle. We've added some size and length and skating on the back end. Because of what we return, the plan just continues to come together. Like when you have a guy like Kyle Hallbauer and Corey Babachuk, those guys can run power plays, those guys can skate, they can log minutes. So we're putting specific pieces together, and it's early, but it feels as though those pieces are very well matched.
From our time speaking on the radio, I harp on this all the time, and I think it's a basic hockey knowledge question here, so I'll ask you to expand. But when you've got somebody rock solid in net, everything just seems to kind of be easier growing out from beyond, who I'll assume is Owen Savory, but he's not the only guy on your roster.
Yeah, and this is the first year that we go into the season with a clear number 1. Owen is number 1. He was second team all-league, and goaltending is our deepest position. Alec Calvaruso and Lyndon Marshall are seniors. Both understand the game, know how to play, and under different circumstances could have been the guys that had the hot hand. And then we bring in a freshman, Brett Miller, who's got size, athleticism, very good technically. So it is our deepest position, and that feels good. But today, Owen Savory is ahead of those guys based on his 2-year production, which I saw on Twitter, which is not where I get all my facts, but I did see on Twitter that his first 2 years are as good or better than maybe any other goalie in RPI history.
I had this question here, but you hit social media before I did. I know you're active on Twitter, but how are you keeping up with the college kids? I know you're on Twitter. Where else do you feel like you need to be active to access the same things that they're talking about in the locker room?
Well, my daughters are trying to get me onto TikTok.
Oh,
and I'm not there yet, Chris. I'm not there yet. But this summer was challenging because of the pandemic. Coach Mosier and Coach Weber were furloughed from May 1 into August, and that put a lot on my shoulders. And those guys, we created a plan. We created an email plan. We created a phone calling plan, and we were able to reach out to them. Social media, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, those allowed me to track just certain guys. And then we had a system in place that if other players got in, I put them in the system, and I was only tracking our elite prospects. It means we've got some work to do on those middle tier guys, because often in recruiting, the middle tier guys will elevate.
I know we're talking with some RPI alums here through this video. Where do you feel like you get the most interaction with alumni?
Well, in the pandemic, we've changed everything again. We've lost our golf tournament. We've lost a couple outings, satellite outings in different places. But the alumni has been very supportive, and I know for a fact that at Big Red Freakout last February, we had a huge 1-0 win against Vermont and a great win against Dartmouth that night. We had over 60 alum there, and that message continues to resonate with them, and the group is so passionate about their RPI experience and their RPI hockey experience that freakout momentum is continuing. So the group has stayed in touch, they've stayed engaged and active, and we continue to lean on them to share their story. When compliance allows, there's ways that compliance allows alumni to share their message, and when recruits hear that, they're like, wow, what a special place. So we continue to engage our alums. We created a special RPI hockey alumni group on LinkedIn, and immediately we got close to 100 people. And the passion is there. We just got to continue to work on these mediums to feed them what they want so much of.
I got to be part of a small part of the golf outing last year at Shaker Ridge. I would imagine it's still on for 2021, or you guys will do things in a similar fashion next summer?
Yeah, really they fall under the category of how do we best interact with alums and fans and the community, and the golf outing is terrific. I mean, the numbers go up and down every year, but you were there, you hosted, you were great for us. Those people love it, and you get well over 100 people at the dinner, and absolutely our plans are to continue to do things like that, as well as explore any other potential options.
Do any of your guys know their way around a golf course?
We lost a real good golfer in Will Riley, and we have some freshmen who say they're good, but until they really get out, and I think one of the things the guys do informally every year is they go and play a tournament. It's been similar to the President's Cup. It's U.S. versus the world, and we've got 5 Europeans and a number of Canadians. I'm currently not sure who our best golfer is now that Will Riley, with his self-proclaimed title, has graduated.
Is there anything Riley couldn't do? He was a perfect 4.0 in the classroom. I read both semesters his senior year. He's one of 28 guys, Coach, you had make all academic. I mean, Riley was top of the class.
Yeah, Will Riley is a great example of long-term development. Treat it like a sprint. He had an opportunity to sign with Pittsburgh after his third year. He really felt unfinished business, and he needed more development. He came back, he was the captain, he was an all-league player, he won the golf outing, he got a 4.0. Everything really aligned for him, and we believe that he would have been in the American League without a degree if he'd have signed the year before. And he really values education, as do all of our guys. He wanted the degree, and he wanted to prepare himself best for the National Hockey League, and he turned a lot of heads. He really developed a lot in the last 3 years.
Coaching staff is still intact. There's consistency there. I'm sure you enjoy, but that the players really value too, right? The message remains the same as what they experienced last year. What is it about your staff you've got in the room that you feel really confident in, even if you can't be hands-on everywhere you need to be?
Yeah, and the strength of our program has to start with our staff. We're the guys that set the tone, set the environment, recruit the right guys, and then guide them through. Really fortunate to have two of the best guys on the coaching staff. Chuck Weber has been a head coach in the American Hockey League for multiple seasons. He's been a head coach in the KHL. He's been a head coach in Great Britain. He's been a coach of the year, two-time coach of the year in the East Coast Hockey League. He is an elite coach. He can develop defensemen and people. Coach Mosier I've known since a long time ago in Buffalo, and he's probably the best golfer on the group. I think he told me, I think he was a little disappointed he was down to a 1.6 for his handicap, and he plays up in your neck of the woods. He's an elite golfer. But Scott is competitive. He works primarily with our forwards. It's about skill development. And both those guys are at the top of the list for elite human beings. So they help set the tone. Our director of hockey operations, Matthias Lang, is an alum, former goaltender, has, after a 10-year pro career, is back as our hockey ops guy. And I love our staff. I love the guys and what they bring as people, but I also love the diverse hockey knowledge that they also add to our players.
And Coach, he's an institution around the Houston Fieldhouse. I would call him just an equipment manager, but Dana McGuane does so much more for you guys. And even from a media standpoint, the fact that we know him as well as we do says a lot, I think.
The Capital Region leans on Dana for hockey knowledge. Where do you go for this? Is this any good? Is this what we should be doing? I think he's entering his 17th season. He's got a Stanley Cup ring.
Right.
Like, how many programs have a guy with a Stanley Cup ring in there? So he also helps run the entire athletic department, not just the field house, but he's got his hands in everything, which he loves, and he does a great job. And he really runs the locker room. He sets the tone on what you can and can't do in there, and to have that veteran of a guy who has his experiences in our arsenal of staff is outstanding.
I need to get some New Jersey Devil stories from him because I know he's got some really good ones. All right, let's try to fast forward as quickly as we can, because I know as a society we're all there mentally. We all want to move past this pandemic as quickly as we can, but obviously as safely as possible too. When does this season start?
Yeah, and we don't know. So college hockey today is preparing really 2 points. We're trying to prepare for a start point that at this moment is unknown.
Yep.
It could be November. I know that we've tried to buddy up with NCAA basketball and some of the rules that they're putting in, as well as the return to play protocol. It could be after Thanksgiving, which a lot of campuses are sending people home, so the threat of the virus spreading goes down, and really then we're into a bubble, which has worked so well in the NHL and the NBA. Or it could be January 1st, 2nd, 8th, 9th, depending on how Christmas all goes. So once that start date gets established, we're also working on the end date. So we're working with the NCAA as a collection of programs and coaches, and it's unanimous. The NCAA hockey coaches want to move the start date back. It allows for a longer season, more games. There's been no decisions on that, but I think if we could back it up a month, that would be beneficial for games played and championships and the potential to get more fans in the building.
Back to that in a second. Could you just play an ECAC schedule?
Yeah, and that's a good point that I probably left out. Right now, most of the models start with league only, and we're seeing that across the 6 leagues. And if there's a lengthening on one side or the other, allow teams to do non-conference. But everybody feels very strongly, including the ECAC, let's get a league champion, let's play the rivalries that we have, and let's start with that.
You did just mention whether or not fans will be involved in any way here, and maybe if the season is lengthened, like you talked about, Coach, maybe you will get some people in the Houston Fieldhouse or at road games. What is your feeling on where we are and maybe how far we need to go in order for there to actually be people in the building?
Yeah, I think we have to have these little victories, on our campus, so move-in for the freshmen was spread over 3 days, and I know the student life, like I was there in the parking lot answering questions for people, as was so many people from around campus. It was a victory. There was very low numbers of positive tests, very low. Then we need to get the returners back. So now that's happened. That has been very positive numbers. Now we need the quarantine. And these little victories just keep saying, then we need, obviously the practice and stuff, but we need as a group on campus at RPI to not get tired of the social distance, of the masks, of the protocol, so that we don't believe we've won before there's a real victory. And as we have those, then I believe we're going to start considering fans.
What is the general feeling on campus that you get when you talk to your players, when you talk to administration, about how they're all feeling, but also the excitement around this Division I program?
We talked about the word uncertainty before, and we also talked about these little victories. I feel very comfortable that our students, our faculty, and our staff are being taken care of health-wise. We do questions every day. We have multiple testing every week for everybody, and it feels as though we've done the right things. But there's a lot that's out of our control. We're talking about thousands of people, young people, older people, faculty, staff, but people are excited. People are excited about hockey. Let's get it going. The ice started to go in the other day. They had a little setback there, but the ice is going in. Let's get something to cheer for. Let's get something to cheer for the online classes that go successfully, the hybrid model. And when you get those victories, I think you start picking up momentum. I'd say the mood on campus is good, with a lot of room to continue moving up, because every step is still, how'd we do yesterday? Did we get through that okay?
Where is this program, Coach, and maybe just kind of a state of here, where is this program? Where is the athletic department? You've seen, obviously, this is a pandemic that has not only affected everybody's health, physical health, which of course is of utmost importance, but also the financial world that we all live in here. Where is this program? Where is the athletic department from your perspective?
Yeah, this is probably one of the harder times I've seen ever, if not the hardest time. And we're leaning on people. There's budget reductions across the country. You see a program like Stanford cuts 11 sports, which is unheard of. So we're probably looking at that 10 to 20% budget cut. We've had some great people step up, and we're going to continue to knock on those doors. And we do need the support, because we don't want our players to have to take a step back. And really the fundraising pieces that would get added benefit the guys, benefit the recruits that you spend so much time talking about, our on-campus environment and the team meals and the very best equipment. We don't want to waver at all on that. It is a tough time for the athletic department in every single sport, but I do believe you're seeing the regionalization of sports. So the men's basketball, they're digging in as men's basketball. How can we help our men's basketball team? And we're doing the same with hockey. We need the hockey fans, we need the hockey alumni, we need the hockey players, we need to reach out and make sure that our family is tight.
You'll laugh because I'm going to pretend here for a moment that through this pandemic you've actually had some free time. So I'm just curious, what have you been watching? Are you on Netflix at night with your wife? Or you guys, have you had time to kind of remove yourself a little bit from the grind that is being a head coach? And are you watching things on Netflix that we don't know about?
No, not heavy Netflix, but I've actually done some really neat things. So we did a kitchen renovation, of which, was not all done by me, not even close, but I did my part.
Yeah.
I've got just enough skills to spend money on things like a miter saw that you don't need. But, it's
so
good
you're
to have.
cutting backsplash tile? What are you?
I'm doing some trim work.
Yeah, okay.
No backsplash tile. I'm not ready for that yet. I love fishing. So I have a fishing kayak, and I've been experimenting and exploring all the local lakes. I think I'm up to 7 or 8 lakes.
Wow.
and trying to catch the biggest fish I can, and love doing that. I still like to golf, and the family time has been terrific. One of our daughters has been home the entire summer. Our other daughter has come back quite a bit. They're now up finishing their degrees, both in grad school. So no Netflix, hockey every day now that it's on, and really family time and time around the house.
And Coach, before we leave everybody here, is there a message you want to make sure that you just kind of leave your fans and your alumni with?
Well, our guys are doing the right things. We remain committed to being the very best that we can be with RPI hockey, and this is fun. I mean, we get to. I think I'm a little out of practice. You're still doing this, but just to talk about our hockey team is fun.
Yeah.
But we need everybody. We need the players to dig in. We need the families. We need the boosters, the supporters, and the people on campus to dig in, do the right things, continue to follow the protocols as set by the state government and the school for us, and let's have fun doing it. This has been fun.
Well, listen, the first night back covering college hockey will be like a holiday for us in the media as well. A cause for celebration, there's no doubt about it. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Chris.